What's up YouTube? Today we are looking at DCO-106 by Cherry Audio. So this is a software recreation of the classic Roland Juno synthesizers. It's got a couple of features from each of them, and yeah, we're going to dive in and have a look at it in this video. So just a quick disclaimer, Cherry Audio did actually send me this plugin for the purpose of this video, but there was no sort of obligations. I didn't have to make the video if I wasn't happy with the sound. And, you know, within moments of playing with it, I was making really nice, lush sounds, and, you know, it kind of did capture that vibe of the Juno very, very well. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm stoked, and I want to show you guys a couple of the special features and a couple of the extra additions that kind of take it a little bit further from the kind of like Juno territory. But anyway, without blabbering too much, let's dive in and have a look. And there was a couple of things that made it particularly special, and I think that was due to the kind of simplicity of the design. For those who know, like the Roland SH101 and that kind of thing, it came out of the same era in Roland where their kind of core focus was on good sound and simple, intuitive layouts. And I think a lot of synth companies nowadays have kind of forgotten this, and things tend to get so complicated. And, you know, obviously this is a good thing for sound design and that kind of thing. But, you know, when you're just looking for a good quality lead or ARP or pad, often something that's kind of designed specifically for that can A, be a lot quicker to program, and B, give you better results. So for those who don't know how a analog polyphonic synth works, is it kind of has a predetermined amount of oscillators inside. And each of the voices, so let's say for example, if you play a chord, each of the keys in the chord will be assigned a specific oscillator. And this allows for particularly interesting things with regards to like portamento and stuff, where the oscillator has to then, you know, when you play two chords, each of those voices has to shift, and it causes each of those kind of internal oscillators to portamento individually. This is a particularly well-known kind of sound. Let me just show you guys quickly so you can kind of understand. And the kind of cool thing about the sort of analog polyphonic as opposed to just a regular digital polyphonic is often it's these little intricacies, these kind of like differences in the way these portamentos shift that create this different vibe. But anyway, let's have a look at what I'm talking about here. So we're on poly mode. All we need to do is turn on portamento. So for this kind of like retro chord progressions and stuff, it's definitely the one to go for, just because it was so easy to do that type of thing with this synthesizer. There was very little programming involved in creating these really lush sounds, because it's all kind of like predefined, and those who know like the Roland SH101 will already kind of pick up kind of how it's rooted and how things are kind of like, you know, how the signal flow works in this guy. So there's a couple of extra additions, like the delay and reverb. These aren't traditionally on a Juno synthesizer, although that being said, a lot of people just run their synths through guitar pedals for these types of sounds anyway. So you'll often hear this type of sound with delays and reverbs. So it's pretty cool that they've kind of built it into the synth, so you can kind of use it if you want for patches or not. You can kind of make up your mind there. There is a tempo sync as well, and you can turn the time to something like 1/8 dotted, like this. So something particularly special about the Junos is they contained DCOs instead of VCOs, which was kind of the thing at the time. So what a DCO is, a digital controlled oscillator as opposed to a voltage controlled oscillator. So digital controlled oscillator basically means that each of the parameters, well, in the sort of hardware realm, each of the parameters could be saved, and presets could be saved onto the synth, which was a massive step in technology for the time. Another characteristic of the DCO is stepped values. So let's say, for example, I think the easiest way to kind of hear this would be to self-oscillate the filter, so we can turn the resonance all the way up. I might need to turn the volume down because it might hurt your ears. I'm just going to turn the frequency down, and notice when I cycle the frequency, it kind of has these steps as opposed to just a ramp like a VCO or any kind of voltage-controlled controls would be. So this is very cool for creating these weird, distorted, kind of like harmonic tones, because you kind of have particular quantizations which it can step to. Some of them will be in key, some of them won't. So for example, if we enable one of the internal oscillators like the saw, we'll hear it kind of beating against that when it detunes and then kind of fix into place again. And it's a really cool way of creating these kind of like ambient textures. Check this out. Anyway, that's for the more noisy stuff, but just kind of try to outline exactly what the differences between a DCO and a VCO are. So anyway, let's just initialize this. So like I said, the original Junos didn't have any ARPs or sequences. They didn't have any delays or reverbs or anything like that. However, Cherry Audio have actually added those into the software. And the Arpeggiator is something similar to some of the other Roland stuff at the time, like the SH-101 and stuff. So if you do kind of know how those synths work, it'll be very easy to program an ARP. So let's say, for example, let's just sync the tempo, 1/16, and we can see how these sound. So I'm going to just apply some envelope to the filter as well as some LFO just to create some movement over time, and just turn this rate down very low. Let's have a listen to what's going on now. Okay, so what we can also do is we can set, or we can change this LFO. We can sync it to something like 1/16, and we could have like a random being applied. Just do, okay, 1/8 is easy. Do like a sample and hold onto the filter. So it creates like a randomness. So we kind of hearing some of the notes, we're not hearing some of the notes. And Furthermore, the arpeggiator, what it's doing is it's creating a random as well. So in that chord, it's basically triggering random of those keys. So this thing produces absolutely sick sounding super saws. So what that is essentially is just a unison saw wave. And I don't know, there's something about this one that just kind of cuts. It's really, really good sounding. So how to quickly create that is when you initialize this guy, it's got a square wave or a pulse wave. What you need to do is turn that off and then turn on the saw. You can go over to the voice assign section and switch it over from poly to uni. Then this detune basically becomes the amount of detune in the unison, and the amount of voices would be the amount of voices that are in the unison. So a little trick with this guy, because there's only a single envelope and you've got to kind of assign the amp envelope to the filter to kind of get this filter movement going on. What you can do to create a kind of different movement between the two is turn off the envelope for the VCA by switching it over here. So what's going to happen is it's going to turn on when you press a note and turn off immediately as soon as you let go of a note. There's going to be none of that curve. So then we can apply that envelope to the filter, so we can create like a amplitude or an attack to the sound. So the delay here on the LFO, what this does is it kind of delays the amplitude of the LFO over time from when you first hit the note. So this is cool for creating a kind of slow vibrato that fades in over time. Check this out.
Oh, that sounds great. It's like a sort of like post-apocalyptic kind of pad type sound. But as I remove the lows, I notice that it's kind of like losing its power. So what I want to do is I want to create a bit of sidechain using LFO to kind of dip it in volume every time the kick hits. And we can use this amount here to kind of create a mix between that. So I also turned off the delay and reverb from inside the plugin because I wanted to do this. I want to put the delay and reverb afterwards. So I'm going to use effects plugins for that. You can use any delay and reverb. I like to use Color Copy and Rev Intensity by Yuhi and Arturia. Those are just my favorites at the moment. But anyway. Cool, let's play around with this filter a little bit. I want to show you guys a couple of really cool little tricks. So if we disable the oscillator by clicking this over here, there's going to be no more sound playing out of the synth. I'm busy triggering MIDI notes and nothing is coming out. So a little kind of secret about a lot of these kind of older Roland analog synths is the filter actually resonates and it key tracks quite accurately. So if we turn the resonance all the way up and we trigger a note and we move this frequency up and down. Okay, I have to turn the volume up, of course. If we enable this keyboard track amount all the way to 100% and then we play some notes, we've got a sine wave coming out of the VCF. So what we can do is we can actually just turn on reverb. So we've got like a little bit of pluckiness on the sound, like a pad type of thing. So we can enable the arpeggiator again. So for those who aren't following, what's happening here is the arpeggiator is playing the pitch of the filter, which is self-resonating. The self-resonance of the filter is creating a sine wave, and then the arpeggiator is pitching that sine wave to the specific keys within the arpeggiator. And this is really cool if we tune the frequency to a specific note. So it's probably going to be easiest to punch this in by double-clicking and punching in the frequency because, like I said, there are those stepped controls, so sometimes it'll be slightly off. So let's say, for example, punch in the frequency of a C. I'm just going to pull up a note frequency chart on Google here quickly, and let's say 26.63. I'm going to double-click here and say 261.63, I believe it is. And that is the pitch of C4, 261.63. So now, if we turn up the volume, it should be playing a correct C minor scale, although it's detuned for the track, which I think is like F sharp minor. But anyway, it should be playing correct tuning. So remember, there's no oscillators playing there. That tone is purely based on the resonance of the filter, which is really cool. So this means we can actually fade in some of the oscillators before the filter to kind of add a bit of texture to that pluck, if that makes sense. So we've got noise as well as the other 2 oscillators, as well as a sub. So we can kind of play with the fade of those to kind of get this different texture in the sound. Check this out. Cool. Anyway, if you wanted to go for something a little bit more like psychedelic and crazy, we could set like the sample and hold. I wonder if this is on a 1/16. Yeah. We could set this sample and hold LFO to control the frequency of the filter. And then we create that kind of like foresty, bird tweety type of sound. Check this out. Anyway, you guys get the picture. Super simple, super awesome sounding plugin. Very, very much reminiscent of that kind of like Juno sound. Very cool for like cinematic stuff and also psychedelic sounds. So yeah, I'm a big fan. A big thanks to Cherry Audio for sending me this plugin for the purpose of this video. And thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, if you haven't yet, hit that like button if you dig this video. And yeah, consider subscribing if you haven't yet. See you guys next time. Cheers.